Spain had 70% possession, 27 shots, almost complete control of the match, and they still could not score. A team ranked among the best in the world had just been stopped by a side ranked outside the top 60. How does that happen? Most people call it bad luck. Some call it an upset. But football history tells a different story. Because what happened to Spain has happened before. Again and again and again. In fact, it happens at almost every World Cup. And there is a psychological reason why the team that is supposed to win almost never wins easily. At a World Cup, the giant usually struggles and the small team usually causes problems nobody expected. Just look at what happened recently. One of the highest ranked teams on earth walked away with a frustrating 0-0 draw against a team that few people expected to compete at that level. That is not chance. That is not a fluke. It is a pattern. And once you understand it, you start seeing it everywhere. Here is what almost nobody talks about. When a football giant faces a massive underdog, they are not actually playing the same game. One team is trying to win. The other team is simply trying not to lose. And those are two completely different objectives. Winning requires creativity. It requires risk. It requires players willing to attempt something difficult, something that might fail. But surviving is much simpler. Block the passing lanes, stay compact, crowd the penalty area, make the pitch feel smaller than it really is. Put enough bodies between the ball and the goal, and suddenly the goal seems to disappear. And that is where the trap begins. Picture the favorite. They dominate possession, pass after pass, attack after attack, shot after shot. The numbers look impressive, but the scoreboard refuses to move. A shot hits the post, another gets blocked, one flies just over the crossbar, and with every missed opportunity, frustration grows. Now something interesting starts happening. The underdog is no longer causing the damage. The favorite is doing it to themselves, because they know they are expected to win. The fans expect it. The media expect it, the coaches expect it, the players expect it, and when the goal refuses to arrive, panic quietly enters the game. Passes become rushed, shots become desperate, players force moves that normally they would never attempt. The composure that made them great slowly begins to disappear. This is the favorite's trap. The biggest myth in football is that the better team always controls the match. Sometimes the weaker team controls the entire game without even having the ball. By refusing to attack, by refusing to take risks, by staying patient, by forcing the favorite to become impatient. The underdog barely has to change anything. The giant does the rest. Even bringing on a teenage superstar cannot always solve the problem. Individual brilliance can beat one defender, sometimes two, maybe even three. But it cannot always beat 10 defenders standing shoulder to shoulder with no space left to attack. You cannot dribble through a wall, not even if you are one of the most talented players in the world. And if you think this is a one-time story, history says otherwise. In 2022, Argentina walked onto the pitch as the number one team in the world. 90 minutes later, Saudi Arabia had shocked football. In 2018, Germany arrived as defending world champions. Days later, they were heading home. Go back even further. A World Cup final. A home crowd of almost 200,000 people. The biggest favorite in football. And somehow, they still lost. The names change. The years change. But the pattern never changes. Because the bigger the favorite, the more pressure they carry. And the underdog, they have nothing to lose. And nothing to lose is one of the most dangerous mindsets in sport. Players become fearless. They attempt things they would never normally try. A goalkeeper nobody had heard of a week earlier suddenly produces the match of his life. An unknown player becomes a national hero overnight. And millions of people around the world fall in love with the story. Because deep down, everyone wants to believe the giant can fall. We love these moments because they remind us that rankings do not guarantee victory. Reputation does not guarantee victory. Money does not guarantee victory. On any given day, the underdog always has a chance. The favorite will probably still qualify. Most of the time, they do. But that is not really the point. The real damage is psychological. Every team left in the tournament has now seen something important. They have seen that the giant can be frustrated. They have seen that the giant can be slowed down. They have seen that the giant can look ordinary. And in a knockout tournament, that knowledge can be incredibly dangerous, because once doubt enters a team's mind, it never completely leaves. The favorite's trap is real. It is waiting in every single match. The best team on paper does not always win on the pitch. Sometimes the giant beats itself. One rushed pass, one forced shot, one missed chance at a time. And somewhere around the world, millions of fans keep watching because there is nothing more exciting in football than watching the impossible happen. Every World Cup has a giant, every World Cup has an underdog, and every World Cup has a trap. The question